Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Hmm, interesting. Okay. My virtual cam background had gone away. Anyways, now it's back. Thank you for joining. As I keep saying, as part of the banner, I hope you all have checked in. If not, uh, the link is in the chat. Please do check in. And welcome back to for part two of Build an AI powered finance tracker. For folks who were not in part one, quick overview. We are building an AI powered finance tracker where first two sessions, or possibly the third session now, because we did not do much in the first session. The third session, we are basically going to build a UI for a finance tracker. Everything will be on the front end, so you can add an expense or an income. You can basically add, what's the word, you can see it in a table, plot it on a graph. So that would be the finance tracker bit, and the AI powered bit would be about using TensorFlow JS to analyze the data that you have added, and based on it, it will give you kind of an estimation. But before that, like before we build the estimation part, I just don't want to type everything in uh, in a in a form every day. So I'm just going to give it some description and it should fill the form for me. And I'm not going to use any APIs. So I'm not going to connect to ChatGPT or Claude or any already pre-existing API AI chatbots. We are going to train it on the data that I have. So I have created some mock data of 13,000 transactions example, different transactions, different currencies, stuff like that. So we are going to basically use that mock data to train our model and learn from it. Okay. And one of the most popular questions as part of part one of this session was, can we actually add our own financial data in it? And yes, you can. You may need to train it a bit. For example, I've not taken into consideration all the companies in all the countries, for example, right? So I've taken into consideration everything that is available in the UK. So Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, these are some company names like for groceries and quick shop places in the UK. So that's what I have. So it might not be a perfect model. It might not have been trained on the perfect data. Uh, so you will have to kind of expand on it, extend it, give it like other company names, for example. But the idea of, like, let's say, yes, groceries remains the same, if you understand. uh yeah. Okay. So check in, please. That's the first thing. Let me share it again if you have missed it for some reason. So here is the check-in link for the part two. This is part two. uh I have shared the right link. 100%. Yes, part two. So this is part two. Please check in. And once done, and if you want to see the latest project, you can visit the GitHub of this project. So there you go. All the code that you need is right here. And if you have missed out on part one, we did not do much development in part one. We focused majorly on the basics. So we were focusing on, like, what's the word, we're focusing on beginners, like who have no idea about web development. If they want to do it, how would they do it, right? So we were focusing on that. So yeah, it is quite possible that You might find it boring, but for folks who actually have no idea about web development and they want to get started, they want to learn, you can kind of very quickly uh, excuse me, you can go through it and understand some basics of web, what V does, uh, how it worked out. Like we saw it live changing, like changing it live on the run. We added some CSS, saw what how CSS works, stuff like that. So yep. And yeah, you can watch the part one on the YouTube channel of Major League Hacking. So there you go. There's a question: would we be able to connect it to our bank account via an API at some point? It should be possible. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be possible, but we are not going to do it as part of these sessions. Uh, yeah, we would not be connecting it via an API, because also remember, if you connect to it via an API from the front end, uh, no idea how the authentication would work out, as in like what kind of authentication your bank has. Is like, do you have to pass a token, what kind of token, so on and so forth. So should be possible, but we'll need to check, like depends API to API. Okay, cool. So let's get started. Let's build something out. Do I have it up and running? I think I do. Let's see. Oh, I have two versions of it, so I'll focus on one. So this is what we had at the end of part one. Not much. Uh, what's the sentence? It's not much, but it's honest work. So this is what we had at the end of part one, and now let's focus on the part two bits. So part two, I'm going to start with the app.tsx file. This is the entry point that we will have, and I am going to delete this. I'll leave it be, it doesn't matter. Okay, so okay, cool. Okay, so what are we going to do? So number one, I'm going to let's start writing types. Okay, so I will have a type which I'm going to call it as a view. Now I am going to have not these three. I'm going to have dashboard. Okay, I'm going to have transactions, just so that you can focus on the screen. Also, let me rearrange my desktop. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to have dashboard. So I had three tabs. I had dashboard, I had transactions, and the third one was not going to be reports, it was going to be add. Okay, so these are the three tabs I'm going to have. Now, to take a look on which current tab I am on, okay, I'm going to use a use state. So what is use state? Use state is nothing but a way. Hmm. So use state is nothing but a way to track a value. Okay, it gives you two things. A use state is a React function, a React hook, if I have to say. So hooks are nothing but, think of them as a special function. So use state is one of these special functions. It allows you to add a state variable. State is nothing but a value. Okay, like it sounds like such a difficult word, but all it means is you have a value. Okay, so what kind of value? There can be multiple kinds of values. The value can be a number, the value can be like which current tab you are on, the value can be uh, I don't know, a date. It could be like any kind of value. Okay, it's string value, a number value, anything is kind of possible with a state variable. Now the difference, or the the thing that we are going, like we get out of use state, is that It gives you the value itself, but also gives you a function to update that value. Okay, so think of it this ways, that I have a particular value, and I want to update it at some point. I want to change it to be more like, change it from like 1 to 2. Okay, for example, if I want to do that change, I can go and manually change the value. Like, if I have a let variable, for example, let's go to our finance tracker. Let's open this console, and let me clear all of it. And let me say that there is a let value equals, it starts at 0. Then I want to update this value. I'm going to take that variable and update it to 1. Okay, so now if I print the value of value variable, it is 1. Okay, uh, and at some point, if I have a condition, if a value the triple equals to 1, in that case, or let's say if value triple equals to 2, then in that case console.log hi. Cool. So is, if the value is 2, then we do this, else we don't do it. Now what if I set the value equals to 2? Then now if this condition is run, in that case it will log high. Think of it from a perspective that this condition should always keep checking if the value has changed or not. So that means it always needs to keep an eye on it. Second thing is, the way I'm manually changing this value, what if I can write a function which updates it based on certain conditions? So that is what useState gives you. It gives you the value as well as a function to update that value. Okay, so I hope that makes sense with respect to what is a value and how it works. Why is my internet stopping? I don't understand. So I'm trying to just ensure that my stream is not stopping. Okay. So internally, like let's say if you don't have use state, then what you would do in this scenario is that you would have to create a function. So you can create a function, let's call it use state function, and it takes some initial value. Okay. So now you can say let value equals to initial value, and inside this function you can do another function, let's call it set value, right? And this takes in the new value, and now you are setting the value equals to new value. And let's also console log this. Mm, okay, now we'll have to return this. So I'm going to return an array with a callback function to value and the set value function, not dot, comma. Hmm. think so. Okay, cool. So what have I done? So I've created a use state function. Like this is what React would do internally, just better than what I have done. So I will say like let name comma set name. So these are two things that you get, and let's say I use the use state and I set the name to GHW. So now in this case, when I console dot log the name as a function, it should return GHW. Okay, but what if I want to update the name? So I can call the set name function and I can say that update the name to MLH. Okay, so now the value has updated to MLH. So now if I call the name again, it is now MLH. So this is the magic of use state. It allows you to keep a track of uh, what do you call, this allows you to keep a track of a value. Now in React, whenever a state variable updates, so as soon as you set the name to MLH, it will cause a re-render. What is a re-render? A re-render is nothing but think of it as a reload. Okay, think of it as a reload. It's not a reload, it's not a page reload, but it's a reload of the section where you have done the change. So in React, as soon as you do this whole set name, React will be like, oh, the name has changed and it is being used somewhere. Then yeah, it has like it is being used somewhere. Let me kind of quickly go there and reload it to show the latest name that you have created. So that is the idea and the power of uh, like use state and what React gives you. So in this case, I'm going to say like, and you can name this anything. As you saw, like here I called it like set value. Okay, but I actually named it as set name because from React's perspective, the first variable is going to be assigned to this, and the second variable is going to be assigned to this. Okay, that is what React understands. So it doesn't matter what name you give, as long as like the first one will not be used to update it, the second one is the setter which will actually update it. It's fine. Okay, so I'm going to say this is current view and set current view. Okay, these are two things. And since we have created a type of view, use state can actually take a type. Currently the type is a string. Why? Because I have set the initial value as a string. Okay, the word dashboard. But if I tell it that hey, it is not of only types, like it is not a random type string, it's actually of type view. Now my current view will actually be of this particular type, so view cannot be anything else. So if I say blah here, okay, it will start showing me this red squiggly line saying that you are telling me that use state will be of type view, which means it can only have these three values: dashboard, transactions, and add. And you're writing blah. So you're doing something wrong. Either the type is wrong or your value is wrong. Okay, so this is where TypeScript helps us. So what I have done in this angle bracket here is I've told TypeScript that please, like I've told use state to use that particular type to ensure that I don't make any typing mistakes. There is a question that I want to answer before I move ahead. Okay, so this is an interesting one. I have like, so the user, so you have basically cloned it. Sorry, not cloned it. You have forked it and then you have cloned it, and you want to make changes and you want to push it. But then when you kind of make, when you want to sync the fork, it is possible that there is a mismatch between the changes that we have. Unfortunately, there is nothing that you can do about it unless you override my change. So what you could do in this situation is have your own repository and create, like, maintain a fork of mine if you want to. So, oh, actually, no, sorry. What I'm trying to say is make your changes after you are done with, like, I'm done with all my sessions, kind of. So you can make your changes, like whatever you want to do, after I have done everything, so that there's not there, you don't have any need to sync your fork. Okay. So that's one way. The second way is don't fork my repository, because it's always going to be out there, it will be public. You can just have one repository of your own on your user, and just make changes there and push it. Okay, you don't have to fork it. The reason why I ask folks to fork it is because you make changes locally so that you can follow along. But if you miss out on something, then you go sync the fork and override your changes. Okay. So it is for people who are actively, like, learning as the session goes and they miss out on something. Okay. That's why I ask folks to fork it. Okay, cool. So I guess this is the view part. And the next bit is, now let's very quickly add some semantic elements. So this is going to be a main, and I'm going to give it a class name. So what is a class name? Oh yeah, we missed out on that. So class name. Okay. So the word class in JavaScript is a reserved keyword. So JavaScript reserved words. There must be a list somewhere. Preferences, decline. So these are the reserved keywords, which means that they cannot be uh, used as a variable name. So you cannot have a variable. So how do you create a variable, for example, in JavaScript? You can use the word const. So const class equals hi is not allowed. Okay. This is a reserved keyword because JavaScript uses this keyword to understand what you're doing. Similarly, the word boolean, blah blah blah. So, and we discussed that, like, on from React's website, that this is nothing but, what do you call, like, what React does inside this JSX is that it converts it into a JavaScript object. So if this was named as class, React would be like, wait, is it a class or is it something else? Like, is it where the style goes in, or is it a proper JavaScript class? So there's a mismatch there, or a mistake there. So that is why React came up with this class name, which eventually gets converted to the word class on this. Okay. It gets converted to class in HTML, but you cannot call it class in React code when you're writing the JavaScript code. Really? Hmm. You cannot call it class when you're writing the JavaScript code because it's a reserved keyword. Cool. So that's why it's called class name. So now I have said that the class name is going to be styles.app. So class name is a way to provide it a style, or a class is a way to provide it a style. You can provide styles with class name. You can provide styles with ID, and then in your CSS you can reference the ID, or you can also do inline style. So style is going to be an object, and here you can do, like, let's say min or background color. Okay, let's say background color is going to be pink, for example. So now if I go here, there we go. So you can style things in three, like you can style an element in multiple ways. You can have inline styles. Bad idea, because then it makes it very difficult. ID, but ID is more for uniqueness, finding uniqueness. So the third thing, which is easier, is class name. And you don't have to even worry about clashing of names or clashing of styles, because class names, like module CSS, ensures that it only applies to this particular main. Okay. So we don't have this dot app in our module. We have to add that. We'll add that. uh, okay, let's go back here. So there's a main, we'll have a nav bar. So nav, and I'm going to give it a class name of styles dot nav. Okay, so nav is nothing but where our navigation goes. Then we can have a div tag with, like, so this is what I had created, so I'm going to exactly copy that bit. So I had created styles dot nav brand, and inside here I had a span tag where it was class name equals to styles dot logo, and in here I had, come on, perfect. So this, and h1, I can take this h1 actually up here, and this is nothing but nav title and finance tracker. So now if I go here, this is what it looks like. This is the raw HTML, because all the styles are missing. So let's go into app.module.css and let's add styles. So very quickly, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste the style and I'll explain it to you. So the first style is for the app. So it says that the min height is going to be this much. The background color, let's see if it actually is working. uh we can say orange. Okay, so it is working, perfect. uh I'm saying it is of the background color secondary. Now what is our secondary color? The way to look at it is go into index.css and see. So it is FFFFF, which is white. Let's make it slightly this much, F4, and it is not pure white now. Okay, so this is the background color secondary. uh what else did we change here? Display flex. So you have two types of displays, or like two types of, like there are multiple ways to align something in CSS. Now two of the most popular ones is flex box and grid CSS. So these are two ways to align something on a screen. One is by using grids, where grids are nothing but like every box, you can think of it as a box, and then you have some ways to position an element on the screen. So you can do like, okay, I want it at the center of the grid, like divide everything into grids, like divide the screen into grids, and you can then say, I want my element to be here in the grid, I want it to be on bottom left of the grid. So that is one thing. The other way is using flexbox. Flexbox also allows you to kind of position things. So you can say that there is a parent flexbox, which is the flexbox container, and now I want all the elements inside it. All the elements are basically the h1 tag inside it, the span tag inside it, blah blah blah. So all these are the elements, and you can say whether they should be in a column or in a row reverse, and stuff like that. So if I have a flex direction column, if I make it flex direction row and I go back here, well, nothing changes. Where is my, oh, it only has one child. Main has only one child. So let me add another one. Okay, so now it is in a row. So this is a flex box where, like, this whole main is a flex box, and the two children are basically in a row. But if I go and change it to row dash reverse, the hello should basically be before the finance tracker. So the children are now reversed. They are written in code as nav first and then the div, but they are shown on the screen in the reverse order. So now that helps you understand what column does. Column says that everything should be one below the other. Okay. So go in a column, but you can also reverse the column if you want. There's a column reverse, which means that now this bit will be up top and the finance tracker, which is the nav div and stuff, will be after the hello. Okay, so that is a very quick introduction to Flexbox. I am not great at Flexbox, so if you want to learn about Flexbox from someone who is better than me, this is a website that I had shared before as well. Oh, Grid Garden, CSS Garden, and there seems to be a new thing here from Josh Comio to learn more about grids. I have not seen this before, so I'll need to basically take a look, but it looks good. Of, like, the best way to make a grid is by learning how to make a calendar. If you understand that, you understand everything, right? Yeah, cool. So I've shared like three resources on learning more about Flexbox, learning more about Grid, and this is a new resource about Grid which I have not seen before, but I will read about it later. Okay, so that's all we have done in this first CSS. The second CSS would be about what is the next one? So after app, I have dot nav. So I'm going to have dot nav CSS, and let me quickly add some CSS for it. So background is the background color. Then there's a border that would be after this background. There we go. There is a border here. It is 1 pixel, but if I make it 10 pixel, I think it would be more visible. So here's the border. Okay, and it is of this color, border color. Again, all these values are coming from index.css. There's a shadow which is small, but I'm pretty sure I have a large shadow at some point, like somewhere defined. So it gives a shadow effect. So what you can do is, if you make this, like, let's say red. Okay, so there's your border, and there's a shadow effect, but for a shadow effect, this needs to be like 1 pixel kind of. Okay, so there's a shadow effect. I would prefer to keep it same as what I had in my original, so I'll do that. Position sticky means that it is going to stick on the top and everything. So when you start scrolling on this page, things will go behind this uh, nav bar. Okay, so that's what it means. So top 0 position sticky, and z index is dash dash z dash header. So what is z index? Okay, so for this I have to come back on the screen. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so what is Z index? So you have X axis, you have Y axis. So your X axis and Y axis, using the display grid and like display flex property, we could align items on X axis, like if they should be in a row, or on Y axis if they should be in a column. But what about the Z index? Okay, what if they should be above each other? So I want the word hello to be on top of the finance tracker. Okay. How can I do that? So in CSS, you can do that by using Z index. So if you have elements that need to go on top of each other or behind each other, or you need to kind of specify that this element is going to be hovering over this other element, you can use the Z index property, which tells you, like, from a stack perspective. Okay, think of it as a stack to your eyes, like something which has a Z index of maximum is basically closer to your eyes. Something which has Z index of 0 is basically stuck on your PC. Okay, like that's one way to visualize Z index. So I have said that my nav bar should have a Z index of Z header. Let's see what Z header is. So if I go to my Z index, Z header is that it has a Z index of 100. So it is 100 points above everything else. Okay. So any text that I write, like on this, will basically be like any text in the nav bar is basically 100 points above like this other text hello. So if I have more texts here, let's see. Okay, so they should go basically behind this finance tracker. So it gives you this feeling that, oh yeah, this is going behind the word finance tracker. Okay, they're going behind it because they don't have a Z index of like 100. So they are on the 0th index and 100 is above it. But what if it's the other way around? So if I say that this has a style and the Z index is going to be 9999, now they are above the finance tracker. Okay, they're going above the finance tracker, like this div is. So if I can I hmm, okay, cool. So Z index determines where your element should be positioned as like from a Z index perspective on the Z axis, which is basically how closer should it be. And if you have like multiple things, things can go behind each other. It will give you that feeling of it is going behind it. Is it in front of it? Stuff like that. Okay, cool. So that's my Z index. Hopefully, this all has made sense so far. Now, the next one is about the nav brand. So let me paste that one. Display flex, align item center. Okay, so nav brand. So now I have two flex boxes here. Okay, so nav brand, it's a flex box, but it now has two elements. There is a span and there's a H1. So what I've said is that align the item in the center of the entire box. Okay, but since I have two elements, I also need to say that between those two elements there needs to be some gap. There's some padding around it, and there is also a border bottom. This I don't think is visible. Let's make it a red, and that should basically tell us. Yep, there we go. Okay, there it is. Excuse me. So That's the nav brand. The next one is logo. I should name it nav logo. Nav logo, it is going to have a font size of something, a bigger font size. So if I say font size of 100 pixels, that should ideally be applied to my font, like logo. Okay, it is currently set to XL, which is, what is my font size? XL, it is 1.25 rem. Okay, where 1 rem is equal to 8 pixels. So 1.25 into 8 pixels. I have no idea why it's not showing up what I wanted to show. Oh, it's showing up here. 1.25 into 8. That's 10 pixels. Okay, so that's the largest uh, font size. Also, one way to know what is the actual computed font, like sizes. Example, in this case, you know that it is font size XL, which is 1.25 rem. Oh, it's 20 pixels. But what is the actual computed one? You can go to your dev tools, go to the computed tab, and you can search here. So if I search for font size, it will tell me that, oh, it is 20 pixels. Okay, cool. Uh, okay, so that is my nav logo. Similarly, I will have the nav title. Yep, a finance tracker, and it is now, it has become smaller to be of the same size as my like nav logo, font weight, and the primary color. So this is what it would look like. That is the CSS for my nav bar. Now this is the point where I will push this particular code so that you can have this CSS. Why? Because I think CSS is the most difficult one to write. Like even I don't write my own CSS. Okay, so if you go to GitHub now, there should be a session to add navbar, which should tell you like there are three files that changed: app.module.css changed, app.tsx changed, and index.css had a slight change. Okay, these are the three files that changed. I realized that I did not run npm run lint format. Okay, you can add a tool which runs this before you push it. Okay, so currently I do have two errors. I have these variables that are not being used, unfortunately. So it should have ideally stopped me for pushing my code, but that's fine. Okay, it's fine for the time being. Okay, next step is now let's create some buttons. So I'm going to go back to my div tag. uh, so in the nav itself, I'm going to have a div with a class name of styles dot nav links. Perfect. And now I can kind of conditionally add some styles. Okay, so I can conditionally add some styles saying that okay, let's first add it. So add a button, and I say that it has a class name, but this class name is going to have some conditions. So the condition is going to be that by default, everything should have a style of nav link. Okay, so this is correct. So by default, everything should have a styles.nav link, but based on certain condition, where the condition is that if the value of current view is triple equals to the word dashboard, okay, if that is true, then in that case I want the styles to also have a nav link active, style added active, else ignore it. Okay, so this line, what it says is that have a button, and let's call this button dashboard. Okay, so what this says is that there's a button, it will have styles, it will have two kinds of styles, it will have styles.navlink, and if the current view, which is our variable here, which is holding this value of dashboard, okay, initially, so if they match, if the tab that the user is currently on is this dashboard tab, then it should also have the nav link active style. Else, okay, so this question mark means if, and then this colon means else it should be empty string. Like, then it means that this button will only have one style. Otherwise, it will have two styles, nav link and nav link active. Now, I want to repeat this two more times. The only difference would be that here this would be transactions, and here it would be add transaction. You can add a plus symbol here. And now in this case, this button, this should actually be transactions, and here it should actually be add. Okay, perfect. So now if I go back to my screen, I should have three buttons: dashboard, transactions, and add transaction. They are not styled, so we need to add the styles. Let's go to app.module.css and add styles quickly. So I'm going to add nav link style, nav links style, and nav link style. So there we go. So this is how it looks like styled. But if you hover over it, there's nothing that happens. Ideally, user should know that, oh, you can actually click on it. So I'm going to add two more styles, nav link hover and nav link active. So hover gives you this feeling when you hover over it. It tells you, oh, you can do something like this. Like you can click on it. I'm going to say cursor pointer. So now if I hover over it, no, not pointer. Uh, Also not hover here. Grab. Hmm. What else do we have? Do I have loader? Progress? Okay, cool. Anyways, so let's leave it as is, which is pointer, I think. That's what it started with. And this is nav link and nav links. Hmm. Okay, cool. I guess this is good enough. Now, if I switch the tab, it doesn't do anything. So dashboard itself has a line under it, which is defined in the styles. Okay, so if I go to my styles, nav link active, it has the border bottom and it has the color. But if I go to like click on something, there is nothing that happens. And that's where the setter function comes into picture. So this set current view, what I can say, or in buttons, what I can do is I can say that on click of a button, what you should do is you should call this set current view function and set it to like dashboard. In terms in transactions, it should set it to transactions, and in this one it should set it to add. So now if I click on transactions, this becomes active and dashboard doesn't have the line under. If I say add transactions, blah blah blah. Okay, perfect. And that is how you make a very responsive CSS. Okay, like not responsive, but responsive. Yeah, it responds to users. So responsive from that perspective. Uh, if I have not mistaken anything, so let me just put this. Okay. Okay, perfect. So this is to just to ensure that I have not miswrote anything, and I think it's good. Perfect. So let me push this. So we have completed the nav bar, in my opinion. We have one thing that we are missing, but we will take care of it in a bit. Git add all, git commit session 2. So we have nav bar completed. Actually, no, not completed yet. One last thing that is pending is when we go to a mobile design, when we go smaller, it does not kind of squeeze in. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So you can do that by using something called as the media query. So I'm going to add media, and then you have to define what is the screen size. I'm going to say that the max width of the screen is going to be 768 pixels. Okay. If you have reached this point, then you need to do certain things. So these are the styling. This is the style that you need to apply when you have reached a certain screen size. So now if I start going smaller, you see like the whole thing kind of becomes small. So this ensures that in mobile you can still see the tab. Okay, so you can go into mobile mode uh, and still see the tab. So on Pixel 7, this is what it will look like. On iPhone SE, this is what it would look like. There will be a scroll bar, unfortunately. In iPhone 14 Pro Max, this is what it would look like. And if you rotate the device, this is what it would look like. Okay, because the screen size becomes bigger, so all the text would become bigger. And that is just some quick responsiveness. Now I need to do a git add again, and now I can just copy this, and I just have to push it. Oh, you can do all of that from here as well if you want, from that button there. And there's the latest commit of navbar completed. These are the changes that we did, and that's it. Once again, I forgot to do npm run lint format. and it formatted a few files. App.module.css got a formatting. There's a slight change there. I don't want to make a change with just that thing in the commit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to git add all, and I'm going to amend my previous commit. And I'm going to push it with force, saying that override everything that GitHub knows. Okay, so now if I kind of go back to my commits, there should be a new commit of navbar completed where the number has changed. Okay, so the commit number has changed here, and that is it. Perfect. So now this has everything that we intended to do so far, and this is where we have ended at the end of like navbar completion. Now let's move to the next bit, which is about adding components. Okay, so let's do some components. I'm going to still go to app.tsx, and right after this nav bar, I'm going to create a section. Okay, we'll have, let's see how many sections. I'm going to give it styles dot main, because this is the main thing that gets rendered kind of. Now I'm going to say that if the current view is actually dashboard, okay, if the word is dashboard, in that case just show a dashboard component. I'll do it thrice. The if the current view is transactions, then show a transactions component, and if the current view is add, then show a transaction form component. Okay, so these are three things that we will show on the screen. But if I go here, well, it's pretty obvious that these things are not defined. So let's go and quickly define them. Okay, so I'm going to go to the source folder, and I'm going to create a new file called as components. Should I call it components? I mean, it's semantically not correct. Let's call it pages. Actually, that's also semantically not correct. Let's call it layouts. That's incorrect. Okay, let's stick with components. Okay, so what's the difference between these three? Like, when you follow practices around the idea of naming things correctly, anyone who goes through your code understands quickly where everything is. So components are smaller building blocks of your project, okay, which means that they are going to be uh, reusable pieces of code. Okay, so a dashboard, when I create it, will it be reusable? Not really. It will only be used on this first tab. Transactions table will only be used on the second tab, and the third one would be transaction form, which is a third tab that we will have. Okay, so we'll have three tabs, and we'll have these three things, but they are not reusable. It will only belong to the tab that it is meant to be in, like for the tab that it is meant to be in. So it is not a really good idea in a way to call it components, but they're also not pages because we only have one page. So you have multiple pages when your URL changes, right? So but for me, everything would be hosted on, like, it will only belong to the root URL. So there won't be like slash dashboard slash uh, transactions slash add transaction. Like there won't be any routes. Okay, it will be, everything will be on the main home route only. So that is why they are not pages. And then you have layouts. So layout, you call something a layout when it helps you structure the content inside. So it's like your outside box. Okay, so you can have a layout which says that it's, if you use this layout you can have two columns on your screen. Okay, so you build a component, you build some javascript, you write some css for it, where you get two columns. So the layout component, like layouts are more like how you structure everything on your screen, make a reusable thing there. So that is why I'm not calling this layout, because it's not a layout. It's not like you can structure anything inside dashboard. Dashboard is dashboard. So I'm confused what to, which folder to put it in. So I'm going to put everything inside the components folder for the time being until I can think of a name. So I go into the components folder. The first file that I create is dashboard.tsx. The second file that I create is transactions.tsx. Transactions.tsx. And the third file that I create is transaction form.tsx. Now, I have a plugin installed. I think it is called as ES6, ES7. Yeah, this one. So this plugin, it gives me some shortcuts on creating a few. Is it this one, or I think it's this one then. I'm confused. Like I have multiple plugins installed. So one of these plugins gives me the ability to write short form of code. Example, if I have to write console log, I don't do console.log. I just do CLG and it creates this console.log. If I have to do, like, create a component from scratch, I don't create, like, I don't write the word const transaction form equals to blah blah blah. I do RAFCE, which is React Arrow Function Export component. I hit enter. It takes the file name and it creates the component for me. Also imports React from React, but that's not required because this is globally a React project. So in here, I can just say transaction form. And this is my first component. Now, if I go to app.tsx, I can import dashboard from components.dashboard. Why is this a problem? Oh, not dashboard, transaction form. Whoops, my bad. Transaction form coming up from transaction form. And now this one should be happy. It should be like, oh yeah, there we go, transaction form. Similarly, I can do RAFCE transactions, and finally RAFCE and dashboard. Now I'm going to run the lint format to see for any lint errors. Pretty sure I have a lot of them. Let's see. Apparently no. Who is complaining about this then? Oh, this is TypeScript complaining about it. It's like, you don't really need this. Sure, I'll remove it. Okay. And if I go back to my this one, import this file, I do control space and import this file. So this should have imported 3 files. Perfect. Now I can go to no terminal again and just do lint format once again to format it quickly and properly, and that's done. Perfect. Now if I go to my page, I should see when I click on dashboard, it's on, like by default, it's on dashboard. Thanks to our use state, which says that the default should always be dashboard. Then I go to transactions and it loads the transactions component. Then I go to add transaction, it loads the transaction form component. So three components are loaded depending on which page I am on. And all it does, it basically reads this function, and depending on the condition that we have written, it loads that particular uh, file, okay, that particular JavaScript. You can watch it in action if you go to the elements tab, div root, expand that, expand main, expand section. Now if I go to, like, keep an eye on this bit, okay, so let me zoom in so that it's easier to keep an eye. So focus on this div h1 dashboard. I click on transactions, that gets re-rendered. Okay, so this is what re-rendering means. You can see that the section had this quick flash, and then it replaced the div with the new, like it loaded the new file there, and it not new file, it, yeah, kind of new file, it loaded the new file, and it replaced this particular section bit with the transactions code. Now, if I click on add transactions, again, that there was a flash and it got this thing. But if you notice, nothing else flashed. Okay, so the div tag, like this div tag doesn't flash. Nav links will have a flash because this nav link active class will change. So if I click on dashboard, this changed, and well, the class was removed from add transaction. It was added to dashboard. These two did not have any flashes, and section had a flash. Now, if I go from this to this, the last one should not have any flash. Okay, so the flash bit is what is called as render or re-render, as like depending on who you ask. That re-rendering is very optimized. Now, previously, whenever you would write JavaScript, it would re-render the whole DOM. Okay, now what is DOM? DOM is nothing but this, whatever you see here, like in the elements tab, that is the DOM. Now, if you would make UIs which would re-render the whole DOM, so if you go from like dashboard to transactions, it would kind of refetch everything, reload everything. And that is bad because, well, I did not make any changes to the title. It remains as it is static. So why should it kind of re-render or reload? And that is what React helps solve. It says that only the things that have changed should do a re-render. So if add transactions, you click on add transactions, then I know that the button, the previously selected option and the next selected option, they will have a change because this nav link active class depends on which is the current active tab. So those two need to be re-rendered. The section needs to be re-rendered because that's where the new element is going to be, but nothing else requires a re-render. So let's not touch anything else, let's not reload anything else, and that ensures that your page is optimized. Okay, so React helps you optimize this. But it's possible to have a wrong code, it's possible to write wrong code. So React also gives you multiple ways to optimize certain things. Like if you are sure that my title will never ever ever change, you can do something called as memoization, which is like memorize this or do this once, like render or render this component once, and it is never going to change until the user reloads the page manually. So if user reloads it, then you have to paint the whole DOM again anyways. Okay, another word there, paint the DOM, which means add all these div, nav, span, h1 tags again in the DOM. But once that paint has been done, once that first render has been done, After that, if the user does not reload, then only change what is changing, okay, or what the user is interacting with. Everything else can remain as is. Okay. Whew. That's me explaining React. Any questions, anyone, with respect to the whole React questions, like what render means, re-render means, and uh, yeah, DOM and painting the DOM, and where is React helpful? I hope all of it made sense. Like visually, it made sense what it means. Okay. I'm going to presume silence as golden and everyone has understood everything that I've said. Let's go to the next bit. Okay, cool. So the next bit is going to be, of course, if I have dashboard, uh, oh, there's one question. What does flex mean on some of the DOM elements? So those are the places where we have said that the display is flex. So this is browser's way of telling me that there is a display flex on this particular main element. Okay, this main has a class of app. Let's go and see that. So this main, where is that main? This main is inside the app, and that has, no, it's dot app, not, yeah, dot app, and that has a display flex. If I remove this display flex, that goes away. Okay, on the app. So it basically tells us like which element, which of these have display flex. How it helps us is like if you hover over, like if you see the code of it in the browser, now you can kind of make changes in the browser itself. Okay, so you can see how it would react in certain situations, and then you can write css code accordingly. So it's really helpful to know like which of the elements are flex boxes. If you make it grid, I don't know if it shows grid as a word. Yeah, it doesn't oh, it does show grid. So this is a grid, and then you have flex box here. So to know what kind of display element uh, is using, like is being used, that's what it basically gives you a notation in grid. Mhm. Yeah, cool. uh okay, and reload, perfect, cool. uh, just realized the way I had done these folders is I did not shove everything inside the components folder directly. What I did was I created a dashboard as a file, as a folder, and then I have transactions as a folder, and I have another folder called as charts. So dashboard goes inside the dashboard folder. Transactions form and transactions, both of them go inside the transactions folder. And chart folder is currently empty. Charts folder is currently empty. But I can create a file and keep. It will be called as category chart.tsx. RAFCE, remove this, and H1 category charts. So this is what I had done. Now app.tsx will start complaining. Okay. So app.tsx will be like, I don't know where this file is. And so that is why it's a good idea to run lint format. And also that reminds me, I should improve my build command. Okay. So if I go into my package JSON, what is my build command? Oh, it already has a TypeScript. So TypeScript type check and then wait build. So now my lint and format passed, but if I try to build this project, I should get an error. And there we go. Correctly so. I see three errors from TypeScript. Okay, it says that in app.tsx, it cannot find this. In app.tsx, it cannot find this. In app.tsx, it cannot find this. It also gives me the line number. So line 3, line 4, and line 5. It also gives me column numbers, but I've never understood how to read column numbers. Uh, like in VS Code, at the bottom, you actually get column numbers. Okay, so line and column. So you can tell it that go to line 4, column, I think it's 4, colon 45. Yeah, so then it will take your cursor directly to there, line 4, column 45. Uh, but I never read column numbers. Line numbers are helpful enough for me. And then I see this red squiggly line and I know that there's an error. Okay, so I can either improve it or I can just delete all of it, scroll down, and then I can do control space bar. And thanks to VS Code, Vite, TypeScript, everything, they know where every file is located. So it says that, do you want to import it from components dashboard? I go hit enter saying yes. Yes. And transaction form, yes. Perfect. And there we go. So now if I do lint format, to format anything, no, nothing to format, and build, the build should also be successful. Perfect. And now if you go to the dist folder, which is the build folder, and notice that in assets, it should now have the JavaScript that we have created so far. So it should now have like add transaction, dashboard. We wrote, what did we write? We wrote category or current view equals triple equals to dashboard, for example. It has minified it. Okay, it has taken that variable name, it has stripped it out, and it is it is now called e triple equals to add, e triple equals to dashboard, e triple equals to add, whatever. Okay, so it has taken uh, our variable names, it has minified it. So this also ensures that the size of our files becomes smaller. Okay, when you don't have huge variable names, then it makes it difficult to actually read your code. Okay, right now someone can, like, some people can go into, not some people, everyone can go into, like, let's say the network tab. Okay, and when it gets downloaded, they can take a look at your code, they can take a look at your app.jsx and understand exactly what you're doing. They can go into sources file, and they can go into source folder, and they can read exactly your code. But when it is built, it gets minified, so it becomes difficult to kind of read your code. It's very obfuscated. Okay, that's what it does. Also, it combines everything together in one JavaScript file. Similarly, for all our CSS that we have written, here's all of it minified. Okay, it takes all the root colors, and then it takes everything that we then define, but it has these names which are very specific, so that it does not clash with someone else unless it has to. Cool. Okay, so that's all you have learned about web today. For the time being, let's see, we will finish up the styling of the dashboard. Hmm. So dashboard.tsx, let's build this out. So there will be multiple things that would be needed. I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to focus on the very basic for the time being. And I'm going to take this div tag, which is fine. And I'm going to say that it has a class name, which would be styles dot dashboard. But this will be error because it's like, what do you mean styles? Where are you importing it from? So we should also create a dashboard dot module dot css. And in here I'm going to have a few things already. Like, I know that these are a few things that would be needed. I'm going to paste that. So dashboard, header, title, subtitle, header row. I'll have a currency selector and currency selector hover. And this box shadow is not needed. Okay, this is good enough. So this is some css that I will definitely need. I am going to avoid copying it again later. This has a div tag. Oh, there's I don't know if this would work though. Let's try. Dot styles dot header. Okay, so it does create it, but this is the problem. This is not as string. This is styles dot header as a JavaScript object. Okay, so styles is like your key and header is a value, and we are importing it from import styles from dot slash. So in the same folder there should be a file called as dashboard.module.css. And now we are saying like this is a JavaScript, like think of it as a key, and inside it there should be a value called as dashboard. If it is, then it is nice. If it is not there, if you have something which is like header 1 here, and if that doesn't exist here, that's fine. It's going to ignore it. Header and h1, and I'm going to call this as dashboard. Actually, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to just copy paste. Okay, so this is what it looks like, or it will look like. So there's a header, there's a title, there is a header row with a p tag, and now if I go here, this is what it looks like. Okay, with css and everything added. Transactions still looks like that, but the dashboard has some spacing from the edge. There's a title and there's a kind of a subtitle in a way. And after this I'm going to add a select. Okay, a select is a drop down. Now we can say this is currency selector. And a drop down has options, right? So I'm going to say that it will have an option. Yeah, these three options, for example. So now if I go here, I can see that it gives me a drop down with three options. Perfect. Now, isn't that awesome? Now, did I add any styling for it? I think I did. But okay, we can improve this selector. Number one, we want React to know what is the currently selected currency, right? And right now, there is no way for it to actually know what is the currently selected currency. Then we also have the problem of uh, like writing it again and again. Like, we can definitely improve it. What if you have, instead of three options, you have 10 options? Would you write it like this 10 times? No, you can kind of loop over uh, a set of currencies if you want, right? So that is something that we need to do. We have to loop over some x number of currencies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a quick variable called as currencies. I'll add like INR in it, USD, GBP, INR. Yeah, this is good enough. Then I can have like a local variable. So I'm going to use uState variable, const selected currency and set selected currency. Okay, this is good enough. Unsafe type assignment. Yes, it doesn't know what is it's supposed to be like. So I'm going to say it is going to be strings. Okay, I'm going to ignore that for the time being. And what else? Tu-tu-tu-tu-tu. I'm going to go over to the UI bit, and right here I'm going to say that currencies dot map over it. Map is loop over it, and for each currency I want an option. So we can say like this is each currency, and now here I can say that there's an option where there's a key and there's a value. Okay, this is good enough. We open this bracket, we close this bracket, we also have to close this particular bracket, and there we go. Perfect. And on change, yes, okay, that's another thing that is pending. So on, perfect. Okay, so the value is set to be the selected currency, and on change what you need to do is call this function set selected currency and give it the value e.target.value. Now e.target.value, if this is your first time looking at it, uh, what it means is this is a text element. Okay, who is unhappy? Oh, use state is not defined. Ah, oh, that was missing. Okay, so this is a text element. Okay, this drop down has text elements. So what we need to do is that when a user makes a change in this one, I need to grab the target's value, and we can actually see it very easily. So if I make a change, then I can console.log what is the selected currency. So now if I change it from euro to USD, it says that the selected currency is USD. Okay. If I change it to INR, it says the selected currency is INR. But it's not changing it in the drop down. Here in the text, I can see it's changing, but not in the drop down. And that's where our function comes in. Our function takes this value and assigns it to this selected currency variable. So now if I go and change it to GBP, the selected currency is GBP, and visually also it shows GBP. Okay. So this is what the setter function does, and e.target.value is nothing but taking the text value of this one. Okay, so that is our dashboard up until the currency selector, and this is the perfect time to kind of stop and ask any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Like, we are coming towards the end of the session. Okay, yes, sure. I would be happy to do that. So, when you name something .css, directly .css, example, we have something called as index.css. Okay, it is directly .css. Now, any variable name that I define here applies to all the files, which means that if I have a variable, like not variable, but a class name, example, if I say that there is a class called as .main, okay, and that has a background color of, well, as you can assume, to basically show something, I go for pink or a version of pink. So I have said that dot main, or let's say dot app. I know that there is a dot app in my this one. Okay, so I've applied it here in dot in index.css. That should apply to everything. Okay, so all files wherever there is a dot app should get that particular color. uh, oh, I also need to ensure that the class name is not styles.app, it is actually app. So now, anywhere in the code I have this app, it will actually uh, take the color from index css and apply. Now you can have the same class name multiple times. So you can have, like, one of the most common class names is container. Okay, so container is a class name which is very popular, very used, because think of it as boxes. Okay, containers are nothing but boxes, so you can have that container multiple times, multiple places. So I say that there is a container here, and let's say there's also a container here. So instead of styles.main, this is also a container. And for this particular file, assuming that uh, I did not have a module. I actually had this as CSS, normal CSS, and I changed the container to be of, like, to have a background color of orange. Then in that case, I would have same variable with different colors, and depending on the layering of when it is applied, it could either be this pink or it could either be orange. And that's problematic because there are only so many names you can think of, and there are only, like, and how do you make sure that the style is specific? That's where the module comes in. So module is like that, it's okay if you have a repetitive name. Okay, we can handle it if you just tell me where should it apply. So if you tell me that it should apply to main, and I should search for this app class name, I will go into module and I will find that app class name, give it some unique name so that it only applies to the app that you have said. Okay, and this makes it a gives it a unique name. So now my style is specific to this element, it has a unique name, it will not conflict with someone else in my entire project. So module css is a way of making styles more specific, ensuring that it doesn't conflict or it doesn't get overridden. Okay, because every time you build and rebuild, this name will change. Okay, so not right now, but if you, like, do it enough times, if you build and deploy it, and if you do it enough times, you will see that this name keeps changing. It's going to be very unique. So if you have to override this style, you can't do it. Okay, can't do it easily. You have to actually write some specific code to actually override this style. And yeah, that's about .css .module css. CSS files are normally global. Okay, always remember that CSS files are always at a global level. So if you have same class name, same ID name, it is going to override one or the other. But module css are local, like the styles are more local, they're more focused, and they're uniquely named. Even if you don't name it uniquely, it will be uniquely named. Does that help? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as golden. Okay, perfect. Oh, welcome. Absolutely welcome. Okay, so that I think is towards the end of my session. Let me calculate. Yeah, 2 hours. Yep. Okay, cool. Perfect. So that's the end of my session, unfortunately. Let me first push everything that we did. So in app.tsx, okay, these are things that we did in index.css. Uh, we'll need to run the format once again. So before push, let me just quickly do a lint format. Okay. Uh, category chart was created. Fine. Dashboard module.css was created completely. Fine. Dashboard.tsx had a few things. That's fine. Transaction form was created and transactions was created. Okay, perfect. Cool. I think this is the perfect time to just like push this. Git add all, git commit dash m. This is session 2, intro to components, add dashboard component, and git push. And you can get so far 6 commits. Nice, not too bad. There you go. It's okay if you have missed it because here's the code for it. Okay, cool. So that is everything for these first 2 sessions. Now, in the next session, oh, the number of stars have increased. Sorry, I got distracted. Stars. So, 4 stars. Thank you for the 4 people who have found my effort commendable and star worthy. Okay, so in the next session, so session 3, I have session 3 and session 4 tomorrow, again, back to back. Uh, the pace would be slightly quicker. We would be using Zustend. Okay, so I have done a video in the past of Zustend where I've explained Zustend in detail. It's a state management library. So I am going to introduce Zustend. We'll create some Zustend stores, which will be very necessary going forward. So the pace of tomorrow's session would be very like would be slightly faster. And but like don't worry too much about it. Even if you don't know anything about it, it's fine. Do join the session, and maybe I can help clear some doubts, like some quick doubts basically. Okay, so that's the end of all the sessions from me for today. But you have up and coming so many more sessions. So example, after an hour you'll have an intro to agent mode in GitHub Copilot with Kari. So definitely enjoy that session, learn about agent mode in GitHub Copilot. And uh, if you join it and you learn about it, then for tomorrow's session, things that I don't explain, you can ask GitHub Copilot to explain it to you. Okay, and you can use the agent mode to kind of build some bits and pieces, some amazing bits and pieces, like expand on what I've built and like add to it, add stuff to it. Cool. So yeah, that's it. And finally, oh, thank you so much. Remember, feedback. So there we go. So if you really liked it, give me good feedback. Okay, I'm joking. Give a feedback which you think is worthy of the session. Uh, so go through it. This was the part 2 of the finance tracker. Give me a rating, give me a review, talk about things you liked, things you didn't like. Give me any constructive criticism is always welcome, which can help me like improve, make it more enjoyable, more worthy of your time. That like I would really appreciate that. Okay, cool. So thank you so much once again, everyone. Have a nice rest of the evening. Take a quick break and then maybe join back Kari to learn about intro to agent mode in GitHub Copilot. using GitHub Copilot. Cool. Thanks all. See you tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.